welcome to my very first video made in English. Because today I want to share with you guys some of my very unique and helpful tricks in improving your language speaking skills. Apart from a couple of months of studying and traveling in the States and in Australia, I have never actually lived in an English-speaking country. Though I don't speak as well as some of my friends who actually grew up in the States, but I always find it comfortable to communicate in English with some of my international friends. So it's definitely possible to learn English well enough even without being in the language environment. And with my tricks, you don't even need to spare time, and it's not painful at all. So before we start, make sure that you give me 一键三连. When it comes to learning languages, I always emphasize the idea of input and output, which is you need to absorb information in this language first, which is to listen and to read. Then after processing the information, which is to reflect on the linguistic phenomena and to memorize, then you can go to output, which is to speak and to write. First, input. Turn all your habits of entertainment into this language. For example, when you want to watch a film, watch an American film. When you want to listen to some music, listen to English songs. And the most useful tool that we have right now is social media, where you get to know a lot of day-to-day colloquial terms young people like to use. So go on social media and follow some English content creators. While doing that, the most important trick is to imagine yourself as a native speaker instead of translating everything into Chinese and try to understand it in Chinese. Actually, you don't need to worry that you don't understand. Try to remember how you study Chinese. When you study your first language, you didn't have another language to translate into, but you still get to understand it. By which I mean, when you use this language as often as you need, and one day you'll find out that even though you've never looked up a word in a dictionary, somehow you just know it. That's how it's working. Because language is the most superficial of what we are trying to express. What's hidden underneath is the logic of the culture. So when you need to study English, try to absorb information directly in English. Otherwise, you're always gonna study Chinglish. When it comes to output, the best way is always to have a partner with who you can practice speaking it. It could be a native speaker or someone that's also studying this language, because compared to knowing something, you hear it, you react, and then you say it out loud. It's a totally different process. If you guys are interested, just tell me in the comments and then I can share more about how to find a language partner. But if you find it difficult, you can also practice by yourself in these ways. First, translate everything immediately in your mind. So when you see everything in life or you think of something, you just translate it immediately into English. For example, when you see a table, the first thing that comes to your mind is 桌子. Then you translate it immediately into table. Maybe for the first few times, you always need to translate it, but the more you practice, the quicker you react. So maybe for the first time, you need a few seconds to reflect on it, then you reduce the time to 1 second. One day, you don't need time to reflect anymore. When you see a table, you think of table immediately without translating from Chinese to English. That's the best way to practice your speaking skill. Secondly, turn your habits into English. For example, back in high school, I would write my diary in English. One of the reasons was also because if I write it in English, my parents wouldn't understand. But also when I later started learning Italian, I would use Italian to write my diaries. The more you practice, the more comfortable you feel with this language. For example, I always found it really difficult to remember the months and the dates in Italian. And I had this habit of writing down all my schedules on a notebook. So then I started writing all the dates and the month in Italian. Then without any efforts, I just remember them all. And then, last but not least, the spirit of a language is actually your emotions. Have you ever noticed that there are some people who are actually pretty good with grammars or they have a huge vocabularies, but when they speak it, you just don't feel like it. It's all about the facial expressions. That's transmitting actually more information than the actual words that you are saying out loud. For example, when I speak in English, English, my voice just changed and also my facial expression, my hands are different. Però quando parlo italiano devo usare le mani, devo muovere la testa, le spalle, tutto. 但是当我说中文的时候，我看起来就是很冷静的样子。So if you're trying to fake a native speaker, maybe try this out first. So yeah, guys, these are all my tricks. And in the end, I want to say this one more time, not to think of learning language as a very serious and boring thing to do, but take it into your life. When you're using it, thinking of it every minute in your life, you're studying all day without even noticing. Insomma, sono Chloe, studio comunicazione internazionale e linguistica. Seguitemi per più consigli interessanti sullo studio delle lingue.